Well, good afternoon, YTPC. It is Monday. TGIM, right? Thank God it's Monday. It's Monday afternoon around 4 o'clock. This is Dave coming to you from Southern Maryland. And look, I'm really using a real lighter. It's on 4 o'clock. It's almost 60 degrees out. Dead calm, not even a breeze. I'm wearing my smoking jacket because it's a smoking jacket and not because I need it. It's almost too warm in here. So I imagine a lot of the weather's like this, but I swear to God, Maryland's weather is bipolar lately. There's 35 and raining and windy, and then 40 and windy and raining, and then super dense fog, and now 60 degrees, partly cloudy and no wind. As always, the Meerschaum. This colored up nicely. I've not looked into the wax any more than I have since yesterday. Hey, what's in it? What's in it is a McBaron HH Old Dark Fired Ready Rubbed. So you can kind of see it. It's like they did rub it for you. It's awesome. So you know me, I don't do shit, right? So I guess I don't even like rubbing out my own tobacco flakes. I struggle with flake tobacco. So at least for now, when I see you guys recommend a flake, if I can get it ready rubbed, I will. I'm not giving up on flake. It just falls into not my favorite. And Mark over there, Welsh Piper, I am going to keep it. I saw your comment earlier today about if you don't like something, go ahead and just, donate it or get it out to somebody else. And I'm taking the opposite approach for now. I'm not saying it's the right one, but I'm going to wait and see if it comes back around. If it's not my favorite, I'll go down into the cellar. And a year or two later, I'll reevaluate it. Because a guy as young as me in the pipe journey, who knows what my mouth's going to like in a year? I'm actually in the 12th month. I'm coming up on a year. Pretty much the week after New Year's is kind of when I bought this pipe and started down the road. So anyway, I mentioned I was smoking Old Dark Fired the other day, and he said, hey, I smoked the Ready Rub version. I was like, what? So to Mark's point, there's the ugly American buying yet another pound. What does that make? 4 this week I've introduced to you? Crazy. And I still have the 2 coming in from Uncle Willie. So that'll make 6 or 7 pounds coming into the cellar this last week. Typical American. Holy smokes, too. Talk about typical American. Did you guys watch Greg's Tunnel Time when he started out on the motorcycle? He was off his meds yesterday. That was a great video. You guys, I got to tell you, as presenters, you are best when you rant. Holy shit, I love it. Greg was off the chain. What would Jesus do? I grew up in that era. And I'm probably going to call this episode Wwjd. I want to take where Greg started, and I want to take it a little bit further. Okay, before I do that, so what am I drinking? McDonald's Coke. Pretty boring, pretty basic. Most of the ice is melted. It's really just keep my mouth cool. About another alcohol today, but I'll show that to you tomorrow. The other thing I want to say before I get started is I got a shout out from the Johnny P. I'd never even heard of the guy. So thank you very much. That was really awesome. And it was a great shout out. So thank you for doing that. I went and found you. I subscribed to you. I watched the video. So thank you very much. Okay, before I get to the really offensive stuff, I'm going to bring this book back up because several of you said, hey, I love that reading. I wouldn't mind if you read to me every day. So I don't know if we'll do it every day, but I love being read to. As a 59-year-old man, I love being read to. Now, clearly, I don't have the voice for Audible, so you'll never hear me there, but I'll read to you occasionally. So I went and found my next, what I called with Greg, my big ones. February 25th, page 56. Can't read shit without my glasses. This drives my life to this day. If I make deposits into an emotional bank account with you through courtesy, kindness, honesty, and keeping my commitments to you, I build up a reserve. Your trust towards me becomes higher, and I can call upon that trust many times if I need to. I can even make mistakes, and that trust level, that emotional reserve, will compensate for it. My communication may not be clear, but you'll get my meaning anyway. You won't make me an offender for a word. When the trust account is high, communication is easy, instant, and effective. Guys, this concept of the emotional bank account, you don't have to agree with it, but it's there. You have an emotional bank account with every single person in our lives. I shouldn't say you, ours. I have it with my wife. I have it with each one of my kids. I'm starting to get it with you as an audience. I'm starting to get it with some of you individually who I communicate a lot with. You know, we're getting a sense of who we are. We're building an emotional bank account. And in large part, we're putting deposits in. That's what we should be doing. With the human beings in our life, we should be spending most of our time making positive deposits into those accounts and not negative withdrawals. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's kissing the wife good morning. You know, first thing in the morning, the first thing you do is give her a kiss. It's a deposit. If you're gonna be home for dinner, tell her you're gonna be home for dinner at 5 and you get home at 5 to 5 instead of 6 o'clock. That's an emotional deposit. If you talk to somebody through listening to them, through not interrupting them, those are emotional bank account deposits. I feel like Old Dark Fire is almost fire resistant sometimes. So I told you the other day the concept of the gap changed my life. And I actually have really expanded the gap. When something happens to me, I very rarely respond quickly to it. And I use the concept of the emotional bank account with every person I try to come in, every person I come in contact with and have a relationship with. I try to maintain that concept of I need to put emotional positive deposits into that bank account. And I should work very hard to never make a withdrawal, to be honest with you. but that's a little fictional. My wife might tell you make withdrawals every day. I don't know, but I don't think so. But it's possible. All right, as the Johnny P said yesterday, I've done my public service announcement. I've done my good. Now, let's do something really offensive. The Bible. Dave has got a Bible and is making a video with it. That has got to be one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I am the least qualified person on planet Earth to be talking about the Bible to the public. Let's hope it doesn't suck. So where Greg took us yesterday was this concept of what would Jesus do. And he kind of got there from the sentence that he believed that it would not be very long before good men had to do very bad things to very bad men. I don't know if his timeline is right, but I completely agree with the sentence that we should be striving to be good men, not nice men. I promise you, I'm a good man, but many people don't think I'm very nice. You know, the good for you and the, well, that's fantastic, kind of goes down that road. That's not a very nice thing. I think the modern church, maybe the last 100 years, I don't even know what I mean by modern, to be honest with you. I don't know where we began to screw up the message. But the message is all sweetness and light. Love thy neighbor and be like Christ. Well, 2 years ago, I started reading this thing. I told you that I spent 2022 reading the King James Version, word for word, every word, didn't skip a word. And then this year, I spent every day reading the New American Standard. It's much more readable. But I've now been through the Bible twice. I just finished the letter to Ephesians, so I'm in Ephesians. So I've got about 12 more days of reading. It's not all sweetness and light. In fact, there's a lot of horrible shit in this book. So I'm going to read you 2 different places. This is where I'm really going to stray off course. Look, I already tagged it. So the first thing I want to read to you is out of the book of Joshua. That's Old Testament, 6th book. They've reached the Holy Land, the land of milk and honey. Moses has died. Joshua has taken over. And God has now told him, hey, it's time for you guys to grow. It's time for you to expand. This is where I'm not paraphrasing, okay? So I'll tell you, I'm going to read right out of here. One of the first places that Joshua was told to take the Jewish people to conquer, to take over and conquer, to go and kill and take over, all right, is Jericho. But the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have handed Jericho over to you with its king and the valiant warriors, and you shall march around the city, and all the men of war circling the city once. You shall do so for 6 days. And he tells him to go, let's see, also 7 priests shall carry 7 trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. Then on the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. I'm not going to bore you with the whole how it happens, okay? This is Joshua 6, verse 21, for the fact checkers in the world. They utterly destroyed everything in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox, sheep, and donkey with the edge of the sword. Sword, idiot. It's under the direct orders of God. And the 6th chapter ends with, so the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. Well, then he goes to I, or A. It's AI, sorry. Chapter 8 is the conquest of I. This is God talking to, or the Lord. By the way, he likes to be called the Lord, right? This book tells you what he wants to be called. We keep calling him God, but he says, call me the Lord. Now the Lord said to Joshua, do not be fear or be dismayed. Take all the people of war with you. Arise, go up to Ai. See, I have handed over to you the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and his king just as you did to Jericho and its king. You shall take only its spoils and its cattle as plunder for yourselves. Set an ambush for the city behind it. He teaches Joshua how to do it. Then it will be when you have seized the city, you shall set the city on fire. You shall do it in accordance with the word of the Lord. See, I have commanded you. So not a man was left in Ai or Bethel, but they had all gone out after Israel, and they left the city unguarded. When Joshua and all Israel saw that the men in ambush had captured the city and that the smoke of the city ascended, they turned back and killed the man of Ai. And they killed them until there was not one left who escaped or survived. So all who fell that day, both men and women, were 12,000, all the people of Ai. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a refuse heap forever, a desolation to this day. And he hanged the king of Ai on a tree until evening. But at sunset, Joshua gave the command, and they took his body down from the tree and threw it at the entrance of the city gate and erected over it a large heap of stones that stands to this day. So you think, wow, Jericho and Ai, that's pretty crazy. Chapter 12 is the kings defeated by Israel. Just listing the names here. Just listing the names. This is how long it's going to take me a minute. Sihon, king of the Amorites. Og, king of Bashan. The king of Jericho. The king of Ai. The king of Jerusalem. The king of Hebron. The king of Jarmuth. The king of Lachish. The king of Eglon. The king of Gezer. The king of Debir. The king of Gader. The king of Hormah. The king of Arad. Libnah. Adullam. Makkedah. Bethel. Tapah. Hefer. The king of Aphek. Lashron, Madon, Hazor. I'm not done. Shimron, Maran, Akshpa, Tanakh, King Megiddo, Kadesh, Jokneam, Carmel, Dor, Heights of Dor, Goam, and the king of Tirzah. They did that to all those kingdoms. Killed everyone, burned everything, killed the animals, and then took it over for their own use. So, guys, I'm going to turn into the New Testament now. I'm in Luke. We're going to talk about Jesus for a minute. This is Luke 17, verse 1. Now he said to the disciples, it is inevitable that stumbling blocks come, but woe to the one through whom they come. It is better for him if a millstone is hung around his neck and he is thrown into the sea than that he may cause one of these little ones to sin. And then out in chapter 2 of John 2:15. The Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And within the temple grounds he found those who were selling oxen, sheep, and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. And he, Jesus, he made a whip of cords and drove them all out of the temple area with the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned the tables. Until those who were selling the doves even, he said, take these away from here, stop making my father's house a place of business. I feel like I'm supposed to stay hearing the reading or hearing the lesson. Hearing the reading because the lesson is there's still more offense coming. So yeah, I'm not ignoring that the greatest command is love thy God and no other, followed quickly by love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as you would God. I get that. I'm not ignoring that. My point being is, I believe most religion is now ignoring the whole other part that I just read you. And that there are times when God himself and even Jesus said, it's not time to turn the other cheek. The time has come not to love your neighbor. And it's time for the good man to stand up and burn some shit down. I think we are doing the men of the world a disservice by not teaching them. They may be called upon themselves to burn some shit down, to tie some millstones around some necks and throw that fucker in the river. It may not happen. No one knows, by the way. No one knows the date. No one even knows what era we're in. That's crap. In my opinion, nobody knows where we are time-wise. Hell, there's even debate about the Old Testament prophets. Which ones are talking about the past, the present, and the future? There's a lot of debate over that. So for someone to tell you we're in the end times right now, I don't know. We might be, but they don't know any more than I do or you do. Anyway, I kind of owe my biblical rant to Greg. I thought his video was fantastic. That doesn't mean I agree with every word he said. But he and I are becoming friends, and I can be friends with somebody who says something that I don't agree with every word. I agree with his sentiment entirely. It goes back to what we talked about yesterday. Weak men make hard times, and we're in it. I don't think they're done making it harder yet. But those of us that are good men must be ready to stand up and not only talk about things and say the things that need to be said that people don't want said anymore, but potentially be ready physically, tool-wise, weapon-wise, money-wise, whatever, however we need to be prepared to do more than talk about it. We may be called upon to tie a millstone around someone's neck. And by the way, that's a metaphor in today's world, right? I'm not trying to raise an army and go do stupid shit. I'm saying we should be ready for it. And I'm saying that our churches should be teaching our men that it's a possibility. And maybe not you, but your sons or your grandsons or the next generation after that. Someone may have to be ready. Well, we all should be ready, but we should all some generation will probably be called upon to do some pretty difficult stuff. I think we've lost that. That's the part I mean when I feel like the modern teachings have strayed, and I can't tell you what year or decade that we strayed from, but I feel we've lost the art, that part of the teaching, that it is our responsibility to take care of our families, our wives, our kids. It's our responsibility to not stand here like a bunch of dummies. And there's something that could be done, and that we should be ready for a much harder calling at some point. There. Now, here is the lesson. Well, if you're still here, kudos. That's pretty amazing. Hyper Pater, I can hear you typing right now. You and I have started to have a good conversation on the side, and I appreciate that. Hopefully, we can continue that. I'm not trying to change anyone's belief structure. I'm not trying to change how somebody teaches. I'm really expressing my concerns and my beliefs, saying them out loud. I can't tell you how to out of character the last 59 years, having a Bible in my hand and reading it to you and having an opinion about what it says versus today's world. That is so whack job out of my comfort zone. I can't believe it. God, I appreciate you coming on this little journey with me. I'm going to shut up and end this and get it posted. Hope you had a good Monday. I hope you can get to the point where thank God it's Monday is kind of what you said. We shouldn't live for the weekend. We should live for how we make our money. We should live for how we make our living. We should live for how we make an impact on the world. It's way more important than watching a football game on Saturday. Ooh, that's more offense. Sorry. I better shut up. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.